A lone figure lies awake in the dead of night, staring at a ceiling that offers no answers. Silence. The world around is quiet, but inside a storm of emptiness rages. Once there was a spark, a reason to jump out of bed at dawn. Now that spark has flickered out. In the darkness, the emptiness in his chest feels vast, like it could swallow him whole. The colors of life have faded to gray, and time feels like a slow drip of water in an endless void. What happens when you lose your purpose? Meet our protagonist, a young adult, ambitious and bright-eyed. Not long ago, now burned out and disillusioned. He followed the script that was supposed to lead to happiness, worked hard, achieved the goals that were meant to give his life meaning. But somewhere along the way, the fire that fueled him died down. Perhaps it was a dream job that turned out empty, a relationship that ended, or a lifelong belief that crumbled. Whatever the cause, he wakes up one day, and that guiding light is gone. He had everything he thought he wanted. A stable income, friends, his health, yet felt emptier than ever. And that realization brought guilt. By all appearances, his life was fine, so he wondered why he felt so bad. That guilt only made him feel more alone, as if he had no right to complain. Without that purpose, he's left asking, "Who am I without my purpose?" Each morning he hits the alarm and feels a weight on his chest, a dread for the day to come. Each night he scrolls through his phone, numbing himself with social media. Everyone else's life looks vivid and purposeful on the screen, which only makes his own emptiness more painful. He feels alone in his despair, even as he's surrounded by images of others seemingly living their best lives. In reality, he's drifting, running on autopilot through a life that feels like it isn't his anymore. As weeks turn into months, our protagonist descends deeper into the void. What began as exhaustion and burnout morphs into something heavier, a pervasive sense of meaninglessness that he can't shake off. He goes to work, he comes home. The motions are all the same, but they're hollow. Some mornings he can't even muster the strength to leave his bed, calling in sick because he can't find a reason to face the day. Food tastes bland. Conversations are laborious. The hobbies he used to love feel pointless now. It's as if an invisible sun has set, casting everything in twilight. He tries to distract himself at first. Maybe a new show to binge nights out with friends, swiping through dating apps, anything to fill the emptiness. He even forces himself out one Friday to meet his buddies at a bar, hoping the familiar banter and clinking glasses will revive something in him. But in the middle of the crowded room, amidst the laughter and music, he feels utterly alone. He sits there nursing his drink, managing a chuckle when someone tells a joke, but inside he feels like he's watching himself from afar. Surrounded by people, he's never felt more isolated. The outing leaves him more aware than ever that a change of scenery can't fix what's broken inside. In the quiet moments that follow, the emptiness creeps back in stronger. Lying in bed, he finds himself wondering, is this all there is? The thought terrifies him. In the past, he had answers, plans, beliefs, dreams, but now those answers have dissolved, and he's left with questions echoing into the darkness. What is the meaning of life, truly? Why strive for anything if everything ends one day? Who is he now that the labels and titles have fallen away? Each question leads to another, an endless maze with no exit. The very foundations of his identity and worldview feel unstable, as if an earthquake has reduced the once solid ground beneath him to shifting sand. He thinks of how, when he was younger, everything seemed so clear. The world had structure. Purpose was given by school, by family expectations, by youthful passion. But adulthood arrived with a harsh truth: the world doesn't hand you meaning on a silver platter. He feels betrayed by society's promises, maybe even by himself. The metrics of success he was taught to chase, money, status, approval, now ring hollow. Each achievement he ticked off only left him more empty once the initial thrill faded. Any aim is lacking any answer to the question why is lacking rings in our protagonist's mind like a grim bell. Any why to his life seems absent. He can find no reason, no goal that feels worth getting up for. This is his reality now. A personal nihilism where nothing matters. The days blur together. He's bone-tired in a way that 8 hours of sleep can't fix. A soul-deep exhaustion. Often he sleeps more than he should not out of tiredness, but to escape the waking world. Other times insomnia grips him. He'll stare at the ceiling for hours, mind racing over the same dark thoughts. He avoids friends. What would he say to them? That he's lost the plot of his own story. When they ask if he's okay, he musters a dull, "I'm fine." Inside, he feels like he's drowning in nothingness. He starts remembering fragments of philosophy he once encountered. Ideas from long-dead thinkers now feel viscerally relevant. One night he recalls God is dead. Not that God literally died, but the idea that the old source of meaning had vanished. All the values he once held, career success, personal happiness, faith in a just world, have lost their shine. In their place is a vacuum. Scrolling through his phone offers no relief. If anything, it deepens the void. He sees peers posting accomplishments, new jobs, engagements, travels, each one a reminder of the purposeful life he should be living but isn't. He's aware that social media is a highlight reel, a curated illusion, but knowing that doesn't stop the sting of comparison. He feels like a spectator in life, not a participant watching others live while he stands still. It crosses his mind that perhaps he's failed in some fundamental way, that losing his purpose is a personal weakness or flaw. He's hit what some might call an existential crisis, an inner earthquake where identity and purpose crumble. And so he drifts through each day in quiet agony. The void inside him grows, and the why of living becomes more elusive. At any street corner, the feeling of absurdity can strike any man in the face. He hasn't read Camus deeply, but he feels that absurdity now, the profound disconnection between his search for meaning and a world that offers none. One midnight, our protagonist finds himself standing on the balcony of his small apartment, looking down at the empty street. The air is cool and still. In that heavy silence, a frightening thought enters his mind unbidden. Why not just quit? Why keep living if it all feels meaningless? He immediately feels his heart pound. The fact that he even thought that scares him. As he grips the railing with white knuckles, another image flashes through his mind, the face of his little sister smiling up at him. He remembers the day he taught her to ride a bike, how she laughed and yelled his name when she finally stayed upright. His chest tightens. What would it do to her if I weren't here tomorrow? The thought jolts him with guilt and sorrow. A tear he didn't know was forming rolls down his cheek. He steps back from the edge, stumbling inward and sliding down against the wall, breathing hard. The question lingers, but he's put a few precious inches between himself and the abyss. This is the abyss. There is but one truly serious philosophical problem, and that is suicide. Judging whether life is or is not worth living amounts to answering the fundamental question of philosophy. Our protagonist is now face to face with that very question. He never imagined he would sink this far, yet here he is wrestling with thoughts he'd once consider unthinkable. He doesn't truly want to die. He just doesn't know how to live with the pain. There's a difference. What he wants is an end to the suffering, the emptiness, not necessarily an end to himself. But when life loses all purpose, the mind starts suggesting escape routes. He recalls Camus again, the myth of Sisyphus pushing a boulder endlessly. But at this moment, our protagonist can't imagine anyone being happy in his state. He feels like Sisyphus at the bottom of the hill, exhausted and defeated, unsure if he can push that rock one more time. Night after night, he grapples with a torrent of dark thoughts. He lies on the floor, eyes open in the darkness, as his mind conjures worst-case scenarios and temptations to simply stop everything. A part of him is deeply alarmed by these thoughts. Another part feels numb, indifferent to whether he lives or dies. It's a terrifying tug-of-war in his psyche. At this critical juncture, he realizes he must make a choice, either succumb to despair or fight back and find a reason to continue. In the stillness of 3 a.m., as he sits with his back against the cold wall, a memory sparks. A fragment of a quote from a philosophy class long ago, faint but persistent. He who has a why to live for can bear almost anyhow. Yes, our protagonist turns this phrase over in his mind like a lifeline. It dawns on him that his despair isn't just because life is hard. It's because he has lost his why. The daily struggles, the how, became unbearable when he could no longer see any purpose behind them. If people in concentration camps could find a reason to live, maybe I can find one too. This thought doesn't magically fix his pain, but it shines a tiny light in his darkness. He wipes his face and slowly pulls himself up from the floor. For the first time in a long while, he allows himself to imagine that maybe, just maybe, this isn't the end of his story. His circumstances haven't changed. The world around him is still the same cold, indifferent place it was yesterday. But a subtle shift happens inside, a flicker of rebellion against the void. Not yet. I'm not done yet. If you gaze long into an abyss, the abyss gazes also into you. Our protagonist has been gazing into the abyss of meaninglessness for far too long, and he felt it starting to gaze back to consume him. But now he chooses to pull his gaze away. The abyss is still there, the void still real, but he no longer meets its eye with resignation. Instead, he confronts a new question. If life has no given meaning, can I give it meaning? This is the turning point. In the depths of his crisis, he makes a decision. A promise to himself to live, and not just to live, but to live differently. If he cannot find purpose, he will create it. If the old meaning is gone, he will carve out a new one, no matter how modest or small. With that resolve, the darkness doesn't vanish, but it recedes just a little. For the first time in ages, he feels something other than despair flicker in his chest. A small, cautious hope. Morning light finds our protagonist awake and out of bed earlier than usual. He hasn't fixed his life overnight, far from it. But today he has a mission, however humble. He makes a cup of coffee and watches the sunrise. The sky slowly warms from black to blue to gold. He notices it in a way he hasn't in months. There is beauty in it. Quiet, simple, perhaps pointless by itself. But he finds that maybe the meaning is simply in this moment, a new day is breaking, and he's here to witness it. He begins to rebuild cautiously, step by step. First, he writes down a few things he still cares about, things that spark a glimmer of feeling. My younger sister. I want to be there for her. That novel I dreamed of writing one day. The garden out back. They're small whys, but they're whys nonetheless. As he identifies them, he realizes he does have reasons to live. He had just buried them under the weight of despair. He returns to work that week with a different mindset. The job itself is the same tedious grind, but he approaches it differently. Instead of doing it solely for a paycheck, or because it's what he's supposed to do, he reframes it. This job is helping him develop resilience and skill. It's funding his future projects. It's keeping a roof over his head while he heals. It becomes a means to an end he believes in, rather than an end in itself. When we are no longer able to change a situation, we are challenged to change ourselves. Our protagonist embodies that now. He cannot change the nature of his work or undo his past, but he can change his own attitude and approach. Gradually, he also reconnects with people. One evening, he calls up an old friend, and with a lump in his throat admits that he's been struggling. To his surprise, his friend doesn't pull away. Instead, she listens and empathizes. She's felt lost at times too, more often than she ever let on. They talk for hours, not solving each other's problems, but sharing the weight of them. He hangs up feeling lighter. The isolation that his crisis imposed begins to crack. He realizes there are people who care. And while they can't hand him a ready-made purpose, they remind him that he isn't alone in this fight. He also starts doing something he hadn't done in a long time, taking care of his body. Regular sleep. A short walk each day, eating real food. These basic acts done with intention become almost rituals of meaning. Each healthy meal is a statement I care enough about myself to nourish myself. Each walk outside is a reminder that the world is still turning and he's a part of it. On those walks, he notices the little things, the crunch of leaves underfoot, the cool bite of the morning air, the pastel colors of dusk. These sensations had faded into the background of his life before. Now he savors them. They remind him that he's alive here and now, and that simple fact is something to be grateful for. Inspired by Frankl's story, he also seeks meaning through creativity and service. He dusts off that novel idea he once shelved and starts writing again, one paragraph at a time. Writing becomes cathartic, a way to make sense of his journey, to weave his pain into a story that might one day help someone else. He even plants a few seeds in his neglected garden. Tending to those seedlings each morning becomes a source of quiet joy. In their gradual growth, he sees a reflection of his own healing. Slow, delicate, but moving in the right direction. The first time a new bud opens into a flower, he finds himself smiling genuinely. Perhaps the first real smile in a long time. He realizes he too is beginning to bloom in his own way. He also joins a community gardening group on weekends. As they plant seeds and tend to green shoots together, he realizes that in helping new life grow in the soil, he's helping new life grow within himself. Some days he still struggles. The progress is not linear. There are mornings he wakes up, and that old emptiness is sitting on his chest again. But now he has tools to deal with it. On those days he reminds himself of his whys. He'll take out the list he made and read it, letting each reason anchor him. He'll call his sister just to hear her voice or text that friend who understands. If it's really bad, he's not ashamed to seek professional help, a therapist or counselor who can walk with him through the darkness. He's learning that asking for help is not a weakness, but a courageous act of self-care. Philosophy is no longer just abstract to him, he's living those ideas now. Humans are condemned to be free, thrown into life without a preset purpose responsible for everything we do. That idea used to frighten our protagonist, the thought that no one is coming to tell him how to live, that he must choose for himself. But now he finds it oddly empowering. Yes, he is free, frighteningly free. But that means he can choose. His life is not over. As long as he's breathing, he can be the author of his story. He accepts that man is condemned to be free, and with that freedom comes the weighty but liberating responsibility to shape his own existence. This realization no longer feels like a burden. It feels like an open horizon, like waking up to a vast field where he can plant whatever seeds he wants. He remembers Camus's Sisyphus, not with dread, but with new understanding. Life may forever be an uphill push of a boulder, but maybe that's okay. The struggle itself toward the heights is enough to fill a man's heart. One must imagine Sisyphus happy. In the past, that line puzzled him. How could pushing a rock eternally be anything but torment? Now he sees the quiet truth in it. It's not the destination that gives life meaning, but the struggle. the act of living, striving, caring in spite of everything. Our protagonist finds joy in small victories. One day he manages to finish a chapter of his novel, a chapter born out of his own pain and healing, and he feels a quiet pride in creating something honest. On another afternoon, he notices his elderly neighbor struggling with heavy grocery bags and rushes over to help. The grateful smile she gives him as they reach her door makes him feel genuinely useful for the first time in ages. There are moments he even pauses to appreciate a simple meal he cooked for himself, savoring each bite and feeling gratitude where there used to be numbness. He's actively crafting meaning where there was none. By finding personal meaning in small things, he's healing. The void that once seemed infinite is now shrinking, filled little by little with purpose, a patchwork of commitments, relationships, and aspirations that matter to him. He understands now that purpose isn't usually a single lightning bolt revelation. It's a mosaic built piece by piece. It can shift and evolve over time. Losing one's capital P purpose, like a career or a faith or a long-held dream, might feel like death, but it can also be a rebirth. It was for him. That loss forced him to confront the emptiness and then to fill it himself with his own ideas of what a worthwhile life looks like. Ironically, in losing the imposed purpose he once had, he gained the freedom to discover an authentic purpose of his own. In the end, what happens when you lose your purpose? For our protagonist, it was a descent into darkness, a collapse of the world he thought he knew. It brought him to the brink of giving up. But that was not the end of his story. It was the beginning of a new chapter. In losing his old purpose, he was challenged to find or create a new one. He learned the hard way that pain without purpose is despair, but pain with purpose can be endured, even transformed. People can withstand almost any how of life if they have a why. Our protagonist discovered his why, and with it he could bear the burdens that once seemed unbearable. He also realized that chasing shallow pleasures or societal definitions of success had never fulfilled him. Those were like sandcastles, impressive for a moment, but quickly washed away by the tides of life. What he needed was something more solid meaning. It was only when he shifted his focus from external achievements to inner fulfillment that his despair began to lift. His story echoes the wisdom of those who have struggled before him. Nietzsche saw the coming crisis of values and warned against the temptation to sink into passive nihilism. Instead, he urged an active response to stare into the meaninglessness and then create our own values and meaning in defiance. Our protagonist's journey was exactly that. Rather than let nihilism defeat him, he forged a new purpose from the scraps of the old. Camus acknowledged the absurdity of existence, yet urged us to rebel against it. To live anyway, to live fully, like Sisyphus, joyfully pushing his rock. Sartre declared that we are responsible for inventing ourselves, and our protagonist took that responsibility to heart. And Frankl showed that even in the worst suffering, one can find a purpose to carry on. In a sense, our protagonist's journey was a living tapestry woven from all of these insights, a testament to the human spirit's ability to find light in the darkest of places. Now, if you've listened to this and felt a pang of recognition, know that you are not alone. You are not broken for feeling lost. The void you feel has been felt by many, and it is possible to emerge from it. Losing your purpose can feel like the end of the world, a shattering of the identity you once held. But as our protagonist learned, it can also be the start of a profound transformation. When you have nothing left to lose, you can still find something to gain. If you're in that place, start small. Think of one tiny thing worth living for today. It might be the comfort of your pet curled up next to you, or the taste of your favorite meal, or a friend who makes you laugh. It might be the curiosity to see how your story unfolds tomorrow. No reason is too small when you're fighting for the light. Write it down. Keep it in your wallet or on your phone. Let that be your anchor, your why for now. And when you feel strong enough, add another why and another. In time, you'll have a list of reasons and a life that piece by piece feels worth living again. And remember, reaching out for help is a step forward, not a step back. Talk to someone, a friend, a family member, a therapist. Sometimes a conversation can open a window in a room that felt airless. Ultimately, the loss of purpose taught our protagonist one powerful truth. Meaning isn't something you find, it's something you build. Brick by brick, day by day. And you are strong enough to build it, even if you need to pause and rest sometimes. The fact that you wonder about purpose means you care, and caring is the first step to creating value in your life. Your story isn't over. In fact, a new chapter is just beginning. Even the darkest nights give way to sunrise. Until next time, stay safe, stay true to yourself, and keep searching. Life begins on the other side of despair.